So let's get started. It's actually mid-noon here, and I think everything is okay for our start. So welcome. My name is Jonatas. I am a developer advocate at Timescale, and this is a series of videos I'm working on helpers for the Ruby ecosystem. So we built this all-in-one example, and this is just now an example of like how we can use the hypertable helpers. And what we have done here is these two files, and we have a few other dependent files here. And today we are going to pack it into a gem. We also created here like a Rails app example in the previous session, and here in the lib timescale, we have this, let's say, as a copy of your helpers and using it on the Rails ecosystem. But we are just like copying the file over, and the original idea here was just exposing the helpers, but in the first chapter we even discussed like we are not going to create it as TimescaleDB, but I was thinking like this code is quite good to get someone to start. So I'm going to just create a gem and publish it in my repository, not on Ruby gems for now, but we are going to see how Ruby gem works, how a package works, and what you can do to make your package. So as you see here, we have this Rails app, and we also have the Ruby 1 example, and the Ruby example, they just have a copy of the same files. And what we are going to do now is build a new gem. So I can just say bundle here, and I can say bundle gem, and I can say here, for example, timescale. So it will generate a new structure here. So if I join timescale here, this is the folder. We already have a git here. So I will do a first commit here, like empty gem creation, so we can know and track every change we are doing. And let's see what we can get out of this. So the first thing we need to come here is to timescale gem spec, because if I try to bundle install here, I will get some errors. I have some to-dos to make, and the timescale gem spec is this small file that you can specify what is this gem about and everything. So let's just write a short summary here. So it's timescale DB helpers for Ruby ecosystem. So the idea here is like functions from TimescaleDB available in the active record models, because that's what we are doing. So the home page here will be probably like my GitHub. So PS I will call it timescale, because I am a Rubyist. In general, I have several projects, so I can make it. For now, like this source code and changelog URI, I don't have anything here, so I'll just keep it open. Here you can also see like a bin here. For example, if we want to create like a binary, like a timescale command line application that can do something. In our case, we are not going to have it, but you can keep it if we want. We can just use this easy folder, and now we can probably bundle install here.
Yes,
it works, and it already have rspecs running. So if you do here bundle exec rspec, it will fail because our default spec here is just like trying to do something useful with true and false, and we have like a Timescale version here.
Okay, so
if we try to run now, we can see that our spec spec, and we have this project fully working. Now we can just come to the previous folder and get these files like cp, timescale helper, timescale lib, everything. So we are going to move it to the lib folder, copy it over. So we are going to timescale _chunk and also just change it a little bit here, not using the star but subfolder, as we already have this folder there. We will also need the timescale helpers, and we can just call helpers. These helpers maybe we can also call it like migration helpers, as this is more related to migration. So let's call it migration helpers. Okay, so this is all the initial files. We have the all-in-one that will, let's say, the all-in-one will be our suite of tests that we need to build it. So here we have like a small example of table, and we have to insert. We use all the functionality, so we can basically move it step by step later. So let's first get it working. So let's just join the timescale folder here, and now we need to fix everything here. So first thing here is that timescale has this module, this version. We don't need it for now. We just need to require relative here. So as we are in the lib folder, we have a timescale folder / chunk. Okay, and I will also have another named the hypertable helpers. I don't need RB here. Just a moment. Oops, sorry. My audio looks super messed up. So can you stop troubleshoot and restart? Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't get it. Okay, just a moment. I need to confirm what's going on my microphone. Maybe this is the distance or something. And Miranda, if you are around, let me see what's going on here. So if I reduce here a bit, is it a bit better? I don't change anything in my settings, but maybe I missed something here. Yes, so let's see now. Can you hear me a bit better? Okay, so now it's better. Thank you very much, Miranda, for getting me know. So we are good to continue. And yeah, so if anyone is in the chat, also feel free to jump in and get. I was with the chat open, but I missed it. Sorry for that. I will try to keep an eye on this. So okay, so we also have here migration helpers. So this is all the files, and in the previous episodes we also have this hypertable that is a kind of model that we just have in the Rails app. So let's just copy it. Rails app lib timescale chunk hypertable. .rb. Yes. So, oh, I need to move it to lib timescale. And now let's say if I try bundle exec rspac, maybe it will fail because I still don't have all the dependencies. So the first one here is lib timescale.rb. So I have the dependence of active record. And I need to also put this dependence in my gem file here. So I need to say here gem active record. Active record don't have underscore here as far as I remember, and probably here it has. Let's confirm, or it's in the inverse because I don't remember. Yay! So bundle exec rspac. Okay, so now it says that I don't have the timescale chunks because I still need to refactor a bit of my headers here on the timescale helpers. I'm using require relative, so I can change it to chunk. Okay, so let's see now what I can get here. Bundle exec rspac. Okay. Okay, it's trying to require this file, but PG is not part of the gem file. We can also use bundle add PG. It also works quite well and rewrites this. So now I can try to run again. Yay! So all dependencies are satisfied here. And let's say we have everything in this place. So if I come to this repo now that is like gem file is here, so I can come here and just instead of have this and this gem, I can just say here timescale, and I can say path is, in this case it's quite weird, but the path is exactly here, so it's an internal path. So and then now I can just say bundle install here. And if I say in the all-in-one here, if you see here, we are doing bundler setup, and we are requiring active record. So now we can require timescale. And then now I don't need these extra lines, and everything else should work because we have all the changes done. So in this moment, let's say it should work with our gem. Okay, PG is not part of the bundle, so you need to add it to your gem file. Okay, this is like more like a dependence issue between the two things, and it's becoming because probably my all-in-one here, I have the bundler set up, and if I go to gem file here, oh yeah, gem, I removed the PG and also the active record here. So let's get it and let's see how it goes. Oops, sorry. Oh no, the name the gem name is active record without the underscore. So okay, BI is for bundle install. This is my favorite shortcut. And then if you check here, all-in-one now, 3, 2, 1, looks like it will work. Yay! So our example is using our gem. So all dependencies are satisfied. It looks like we have a good example running. And this example is the example that we are going to transform it into automated tests, because we have, let's say, only like looking for everything here, and then we can say, well, it worked, and then now we can just build it as tests for Timescale, and it will also let's say, give a tour on everything that is going to be like timescale related. So we can, let's say, have a showcase of all the functions and so on. So let's just recap what we have here in the all-in-one series, and then we are going to start building things for it. So the first thing here is that we create these hypertable helpers, and the hypertable helpers allow us to come here, and for example, we have this last hour that is like a scope that is inside of our gem. So let's go here, timescale lib timescale hypertable helpers. So for example, here you can see last month. So we can just add some where clauses, and we add like some functions for time bucket. For example, it's like a bit tight to the domain yet, like this is using like identifier that was in some specific domain, but we can just make it more let's say generic, and even remove such scopes that will not make sense in the library. And the thing here is that when we use this in the all-in-one here, for example, let's see, you can see here like we have everything related to this table as, let's say, extra scopes here, and that's what we are going to test there. So we will need to have a very similar setup, and we are going to just create something like that. So let's start by copying everything here, and then like let's get it from this moment that is just setting up everything. So we can just come to timescale spec, and then now we can have like a timescale spec. So here we can say before I'll do and I can have something here. So this established connection will probably not be needed, but let's keep it here for now. And let's just make it part of what we have. So let's just recap here. We are creating a class here. It's quite weird to have, but it's also possible. And just a moment, let me remove. Okay. So in this case, I am like creating a class inside the code block. So it looks very weird, but it still works. But I can also convert it to some anonymous class that will be much more welcome here. So this is like how I can implement an anonymous class, and basically what I'm building here is a constant that is a new class inheriting from this database. And yeah, maybe to bring some errors here, but maybe it works. But let's run one by one, and let's see what we'll get as errors first. So I will just break down, yes, in two sides, so we can run code timescale Ruby example. Timescale is the gem here. So if I try here bundle exec rspec, I'll be creating this. Yay! We already have something working. That's very, very cool. So with this, we get our setup table being created on before all, right? And I even have here like a drop table if exists. So this is my database, and this is like what I can expect for this environment. So we can start adding something to our README here, because maybe that will also be very useful for the future. So installation, and then we can say here development. So bin setup, you can say run bin setup to install dependencies and rake spec. Okay, so on bin setup, we are going to do something just to confirm. Oh, sorry. Timescale bin setup. Yeah, so here it runs bundle install, and then we can also say here echo. It's for running tests, it's going to use 𝗔𝗯𝗊𝗲 variable. So yeah, that's what it's going to use. So environment variable. Oops. Please make sure you set it properly to a test database. Let's put it uppercase just to confirm people are not going to make any mess here. So, and then like when people install this project, when they say bin setup, they will also see this small message saying, please make sure you do everything here. And yeah, and this is also something that we can make it before these variables, because we don't want to keep it like saying it multiple times with the echo. And this is also independent of the bundle install. Let's see if it works. Yeah, it's a bit weird. Yeah, it shows everything here. So I will just make a comment as I see this comment, this useless comment. I can just move it as this comment. So it will help us to just keep it simple. Okay, so let's just keep it in 2 lines. Okay. And now if we, oops, sorry. I changed my terminal keyboard shortcuts, and now they have a problem in between them. Okay, bin setup. Okay, so yeah, now we have this extra message, and people will need to be aware that they have this 𝗔𝗯𝗊𝗲. Maybe we also can put a better name later, but yeah, that's where we are going to start. So I will just move here out of this and move to Timescale folder, and let's say here now we added the files and we configure it to start coding. So I would like to just stage it and make sure we have everything here. Gem file star bin spec timescale gem spec. First commit with code from previous helpers. Okay, so now we have the code from previous helpers. We have the rspec running here. Oops, I was going to look for rspec. And yeah, that's like just creating a new database and setting up everything, and now we have everything in place. So if we come to this spec, timescale spec here, we can just imagine that this will be like something that we will do before the, not only this file, but the entire test suite. So I will just move it to spec helper, just because I think it will make sense for us in the long term. config.before suite do. So we have this on the before suite instead of on this single file. So if we add independent files, it will run only once, and we don't need to, let's say, recover from something. And Okay, so this is the basics. Let's confirm. This is what's killing me. Let me quit rectangle. Rectangle is what's getting me not to do this. now I'm free again. So if I try 𝗓𝗶𝗺 again, we need to set up the same thing, but it will just be in a different level. So it will be independent, and now we can start describing something here. So describe dot chunks, for example. So, and then sorry. And on the chunks here, we can just say expect timescale.chunks not to be empty, for example. And I think we can try to run our spec and we will get some error because we still don't implement such advanced things. So chunks here. And we have also this lib timescale.rb. So here is the place that we can just create some extra things. So we can say here module timescale, and then here we can say module function to make it static methods. So I can say def chunks, and then I can reuse here chunk.all. And let's see how it performs now. Oh, now I have a 𝗓𝗶𝗺 error, and I'm sorry for that, because in 𝗓𝗶𝗺 we have like a describe, and then I need to say it should have some chunks inside. And then it's a block, so it's saying like you are trying to describe, but expect is not available there. You need to have like another example inside. So let's see now. Okay, we don't have a connection pool now, so this is funny. And probably here in the spec helper, we did like this established connection in the before suite, but we probably need to say here config dot before all we do this, and then when we say before all, it will just establish a connection before any example, any, let's say, single files, right? And that's and then we still have this problem. So I think this is before each, not all, sorry, because before all is for every example. So let's confirm. Okay, looks like they are, let's say, independent, and what's failing here is this connection, because this is not available. And I think if we just keep it here and also have in the before each, we will have the connection available in both situations. So let's just confirm. So now we are able to do the first setup, and then when we call chunks, we can do that. And I just need a moment to confirm that my PGURI is not remote, because I think maybe, oh no, yes, this is why it's so lazy here. And then I need to make it more interesting and more so I'm sorry for that. let me just close this. I have a problem that my 𝗔𝗯𝗊 is not very good, so I will also add some new thing here. So in the gem file, we are going to add something named .env here, and then we can just create a file named .env here, and now I can say 𝗔𝗯𝗊, and I will call it Postgres. And in my case, my username is Jonatas here in my computer, because if I try here, for example, PSQL, yeah, so I have JonatasDB, that's my username. So and then I have here the host, so it's localhost 4532 / let's see if I have a special database for this. Let me create database. Let's call it Timescale test. That's the right one. Okay, and now I can just say Timescale test. Okay, so this is supposed to be now locally. So let's do here \q. And if I try rspec again, oops, no, it's still not working because I missed one thing here. I missed here putting .env.load_bang, so it will just make this local.env works. And if I come here to the main file, I can also, let's say, require the .env here, but as we are just using it for tests now, so let's put it on spec helper. Okay, so this is now on spec helper, and if I am, let's say, I can even move it here, because it can be just loaded once we compile it, and now it will try to connect in my local database. Okay, so if I try here Timescale test, I see. Okay. Okay, it looks like yeah, .env is here. So, and we are using it here, 𝗔𝗯𝗊. I will call it 𝗔𝗯𝗊 test because I think it will be safe, and we can also just to not get it confused with like a production environment. Let's suffix it test just to guarantee. Okay, so now that we have it here, 𝗔𝗯𝗊 test, and here we can also just say let's create a method here. So, and then we can just call it 𝗔𝗯𝗊 test. And now we can say config, connect, and we can also call connect here. And then we save these 2 lines. Okay, so, and then if we try to run our spec again, now we can see, okay, so I have a problem. It's not a good URI. Or it's not Postgres. Oh, it's not a colon, it's a @ I need to change it. at localhost db Jonatas dp, not db. Okay, now let's see. Oh, now it's much faster. We are local. So and as you can see here, we have the first error. It says that the chunks should not be empty, very similar to what we got in the previous session, but it's empty. So we need to find a way to just make it do something, and then now, like, let's say we can make it like change. So let's do it. Expect do to change timescale chunks from 0 to 1. So what do we expect? Event create. So let's get back to our funny example here, all in one. Create. Yay, here we have a few creations. Example. It will create only one chunk because it doesn't matter. Like we are just using the same time. So even let's keep it just a single line for now, but we can reuse these examples later. Okay, so if we try now to run 𝗓𝗶𝗺, you see that okay, sorry, I put like chunks as a relation, but I need to say count here. Sorry, that was my fault. So I was okay. Now we have a chunk, and we are testing that this chunk exists, and then we can also like inspect this chunk. So for example, I can come here and I can get like first chunk and do something. So for example, describe context when we don't have any data. So what happens when we don't have any data? It expect timescale chunks to be empty. So this is like a very weird syntax, but that's the Ruby ecosystem. So that's how we can do that. And then here we can say context when data is added. So here we have this, and then here we can just, for example, do this in a before, so we can have several tests. So before, so we do this in before this event. So now we can just say expect chunks not to be empty. And then now we can have more expectations here about the chunk. So for example, I can say here expect timescale.chunks.first.chunk name chunk name. I will not be able to, but let's say here to equal cool. So let's just see it failing. So we can see like hyperchunk that is being created. If we run again, probably to have another number, and because we are not like dropping the database, we are just recreating the table every time. So and that's fine. We don't need to go there. We can get here, for example, instead of sorry. Yeah, so my keyboard changed layouts. So we can get here, for example, hypertable name, and that should be equal events, because this is the table name that we have there. Yay, it works. So now for example, this is what we are going to do here. Like, we are describing chunks, and for example here, this is our subject, right? So we can even extract here it as a subject. So we can say subject of this, and then we can just say it is expected, because is expected is implicit to be the subject. So it's cool that we have this method. So we can say here the same, is expected not to, and here we can call subject. And let's see if our refactoring works. Yay, all the syntax is still okay. Okay, so we have the context when we don't have data, when we have data. And for example, here we say this is expected not to be empty. I can duplicate it and also say expect that event dot chunks not to be empty as well. And then I can also have something here like expect that event dot chunks to equal timescale equal subject. I can say is expected to equal. So as we just have a single hypertable and everything is fine here, it should work. And then I have several, let's say, independent expectations here. Oops. So let's see now. Okay, we have a problem. We have a problem because they are different instances. So yeah, that's fine. So I can just call here first, because I need to plug one of the instances there. But yeah, for example, let's compare their names. Expect subject first. Yeah, let's call it chunk name, because they will have the same chunk name. We are talking about the same thing, so we are just saying that chunk name. We have just one chunk, and this chunk refers to this table, so that's what we are saying here. Okay, chunk name is not available. Okay, it's fair, because I missed the first here. Okay, so let's run again. Yay, it works. So we are just covering this dynamically here. We have, let's say, observing that all the chunks are related to the event. When we create something, we see that it's not empty, and we also see that the other chunks are not empty, so they are, let's say, similar. So now this test looks like a bit repeated here, but they still like test different aspects. We could, for example, instead of saying here, we can say attributes, for example, and then just like map everything, not only this, and this will be, let's say, a more complete test. So now it says like chunk name, chunk table space, range start, range end, and so on. And this is, let's say, just to see how it goes. So okay, and what else we are doing there? I think we also have hypertable domain that's quite similar, and then we'll have let's say similar test cases here. Describe dot hypertable, and I like this idea of creating these methods because it will really help to navigate. So let me show it in a second. So for example, here I can start saying subject is timescale.hypertable, and I just can say here context when no data is around. Oh, this is really getting me tired of this autocomplete. Okay, so I have here when no data is around, it's expected to have like empty hypertables. So it's exactly the same behavior from this another one. And we can also say here like exactly this when data is around. And oops, sorry, I was supposed to copy it here, not here. So I have two contexts: when no data is added, when data is added. So, and if we try it now, oops, what I missed? Sorry, syntax errors. I missed closing blocks. So let's go again. Okay, we don't have the hypertables defined, so let's go into timescale.rb and define something very similar as chunks. Def hypertable.all. Okay, so this is where we start. Okay, now it says is expected to be empty, but it's not empty. Probably this is because we are doing here like tests and we are not cleaning the database as we move on. So let's imagine that it says that it's not empty because I already have the hypertable created, and that's true. And when with event example sorry, with event example we are going to say first it's expected not to be empty, and here we can do some specify works like do and block, but the difference is that when you use specify, it means like you are going to do a multi-line thing. So expect, for example, hypertable, oh sorry, subject dot first dot attributes to equal event hypertable dot. So we have a hypertable in the events, and then we can just test it. Oh, we don't have. Okay, I thought this method was available. So it says like 31, the hypertable is not available there. So let's go into hypertable helpers. Oh yeah, we have here this scope hypertable, and the hypertable here is like hypertable find by hypertable name. And here we can also require relative as we need it. Okay, so let's see how it goes. That's fine. Now we have like comparing, we have hypertable name, we have hypertable schema, number of dimensions, replication factor, everything we pass as metadata will be available on this view. And the good part of using like a comparison of the attributes, and especially like I am doing all these specs with no blocks here, as you see. So when we don't use the description here, it tries to catch the description from the code block, and then it really inspect the attributes and compare it, and shows these green cases in when it happens. So here I would just break this line to make it easy to read, and this is this is like something that we can just learn here. So for example, as you can see here, compression enabled, it says true. So we can just confirm like compression segment by, and we already do this in this so we can bring this to the table now as let's say another test. If we want, like we can create another table, and we can just confirm that we have compression or we don't have compression, and then we can just confirm that when we use some param, it's reflecting in what the database is saying about. So that's the idea. And so if we go into this direction of testing these options, we can just like say that we are testing the default schema here, and we can start with this. So with default example from main setup, we can just we are saying is expected to not be empty, and then here we can say context we can just say dot hypertable, for example, and this context dot hypertable, this is can be like related. Here we can say here describe hypertable helpers, and the dot hypertable we can say here subject is the event here dot hypertable, and this is the thing that we are going to discuss. So we can see here that it has this compression enabled. So here we can say is expected to be compression enabled. And this is cool because like we have these predicate methods in the Ruby ecosystem. So it's the same as if I would say like expect event dot hypertable dot compression enabled and say equal true. So it's like you say this, but it's much easier to understand here. Like the hypertable is expected to be with the compression enabled, so we are asking the method, and this B is possible because when you use hypertables, you also like has this question mark methods for Boolean that will be automatically generated. So it's able to just like decompose this method and call what is here. So this is exactly what we have there. And then we can see here, and it's like compression enabled. We can also say that to, like, for example, I would say to have the replication factor here. So expect subject dot replication factor to be new. So this is something that we want to test, and just like make sure, like when we create this, we are not like creating a distributed hypertable. And yeah, so that's the idea. So we can say here it is not a distributed hypertable. This .env is getting me crazy. And okay, so it's not a distributed hypertable. So we can say that this is new. It has compression enabled by default, and then we can just call it like this, and now we can see it. And I'm keeping this, let's say, method calls here, the debug, so we can take a look. We can also disable it, because this is this is a leftover from our previous stuff, because we were, let's say, putting the logger here as a new logger to create the table and drop the table. So I would just comment it because we don't need it for now. It's more just like making everything confusing here. So now we have only, let's say, the specs that we are doing. So yeah, so here we can see hypertable with default options, and we can see the options and everything. Yeah. If anyone has any question, any comments about how we are driving this, I'm curious to see about who is watching it, and feel free to share your thoughts about how we are driving and how I'm writing this. I really like to have this more, let's say, dry specs to be let's say, just writing like a short enough to understand what I'm doing, and not keep it very extensive, and put details as I need. And for example, now I feel like this is let me get the line that I was expected to share here. So when I call this like distributed hypertable, expect subject blah blah blah, so we have another library that's quite cool. I love it. Let me get a browser here so I can open it and everybody can see. So 𝗓𝗡𝗋𝗋 is a library that is available, and this is quite cool, because we can go and just say 𝗓𝗡𝗋, and we can use this, let's say, its size, and then we can expect it to equal. So it basically generates a new subject on demand, and make it available. So it's very cool. Like if you already have a subject, you can call its, and then you can just say is expected to blah blah blah, and it's also very cool. So let's just come here to our gem file, and here we can just call here gem or spec it's okay. And I just one note here, as you can see, we are using this 𝗔𝗯ance here. And the 𝗔𝗯ance is basically getting this 𝗔𝗯ance file and making it available. And here I need to still specify spec add development dependency, and then I can say here rspec, or I can just say add dependency here, and then I can call these libraries, because for example I would say like PG and active record are really, let's say, dependencies of these, but yeah, this is something that we should be aware. Like I'm not talking about it yet, but we need to be aware that this dependency manager is not working very well, and everything is just working because we are using the same machine here. I will keep it simple. I will keep it simple to just continue running. I will just make them, let's say, more development testing. So here it is like a group test. I don't remember if that's how I should call it, but yeah, we can just classify them better later. And I added here rspec its. So in my rspec file here in the Rails helper, I can just say here spec its, and just confirm it. That's how I should say /its. Okay, and I missed one quote here, and now that I have this, I can just make it simple, like for example here I can just say it's, oops, I got something weird in my mouse here. Oh, sorry. To be new. So yeah, and this is the small refactoring. So let's see how it goes. Yeah, so yeah, you can see hyper table, and then it says application factor is expected to be new. So yeah, that's one small thing here. And I would say that we can also say here, for example, it's data nodes. We can call it like it would be very cool to just date nodes. So it's expected to be new too. And I'm looking here, like when I'm saying like data nodes to be new, and we also have like hypertable name. We also have like a hypertable schema, number of dimensions. So let's just cover this. It's num dimensions, not dimensions, to equal 1. And we can also call here table space to be new, and we also have here owner is not important because it's my name there, and it will not work. Data nodes, everything is covered. Almost everything is covered in this hyper table. We can even test the hyper table name, like a hyper table name is expected to be equal the event dot table name. So yeah, so that's the thing that we can also do. So testing it will also be very, very cool that everything's there. So we are testing all, let's say, metadata from hypertables. And we started testing here like hypertables and chunks, and we don't have like a good test for everything. So everything is quite isolated. So for example, this test is more for timescale, hypertable helpers, and we know that we have this. So I will just move it to another file. So oops, sorry. Let's just jump into some terminal here, and let's see. So inside this spec folder, we can create timescale, a timescale folder. That's like the name of the library. So it's like the lib timescale / blah blah blah. So we will have the same. So this is the plan that we need to do here, and now we can just tab new spec timescale / hypertable helpers spec.rb, and now I can, oops, I was testing the timescale spec. Yes. So yeah, this is what I'm going to move there. Here. And here I can say rspec.describe. And new here, now I can better understand every single part, what belongs to what, and also get more interesting details about it. So if I, oops, let's try to run everything again. So we have 14 examples. We should have still 14 examples, but now they will be in different files. Hey, I have a problem here. For some reason it was it's not running, so probably I need to also come to my spec / rspec helper, and when I use it, I should just come to all the specs. So for some reason this is not being loaded, and like if I do here like rspec spec / timescale ***, probably I'll get it. No, / let's see now if I force the folder. Oh, okay, so it's a spec timescale hypertable helpers spec. Okay. So let's say here describe now. It's an alias, it should not change. / hypertables helper specs. Okay, I have 6 here, and I have some others here. But when I run rspec on like this, I should see all them. Oh, now it gets. So maybe I missed saving this file before. So yes. Okay, so I guess I got now like this separated file for this, and I also have everything here. So let's just commit it, what we have here. Status add gem file and bin lib spec -m let's add some message here. Also, I would like to add a .gitignore here and just say .env. So, oops. And now I can just say add .gitignore git commit -m ignore.env git status. Now it's clear, and we can even go to GitHub and create a new repo. So just a moment. Okay, GitHub/new, and I will call it Timescale. Yes. Pack of helpers to work with TimescaleDB extension in Ruby. Okay, this is a public repo, and I don't need a license, and everything it will be inherited from my actual repo. And now I can just use these two main lines here. I am using master, not main, so let me add it. Okay, so now if we refresh this page, we have our gem here. And the cool part, like, I love to be documenting everything and doing this, so let's add a small example where people can know what they can do. And this is cool because we have everything like in the examples and in the specs here. So for example, the all-in-one is something that we can just create as an example. So mkdir examples, and we can cp all-in-one. Oh yeah, it's in the same folder, examples. Okay. Okay, so now we have this in the examples folder, cd examples all-in-one. So yeah, it's using Timescale that is required as a gem. So we also need to cp gem file to examples. Oh, I am already in the examples folder, sorry. Okay, so now, for example, if I just run the all-in-one. Oops. Yes, it cannot continue. There was an error parsing the gem file. There are no gem specs at examples. Okay. Oh, sorry. I was supposed to get the gem file from the previous folder because that was the example of all-in-one. So now we should be able to run all-in-one here. Okay, now it says that timescale/examples/timescale does not exist. Okay, so let's get the gem file here and get to know. So I see gem timescale. So, and the path of this gem is like lib. Oh no, it's just like the previous path. So now it should probably work. Yes. Okay, so now we have this, let's say, example running, so we can add it to our documentation here. So readme first, and gem timescale bundle install. Okay, usage. So here is where we are going to use. You can see some examples. Available, and here are a few step by step to be done. Okay, so let's go into all the details. First thing, we can talk about migrations. We can talk about helpers, model helpers. And we can also talk about Rails migration helpers, Rails hooks, Rails / it's in the reality is 𝗓𝗡 hooks. So yeah, this is the 3 points that we need to make. So if we come to this first thing that we can talk here is like create table is now with the hyper table keyword, allowing to pass a few options to the function call while also using create table. So method. Okay, so this is the first thing, and let's see what we get here. So we can say here Ruby, and I can just go to my spec helper. Okay, so here in the spec helper, I can just show this example. Oops, it's not a Ruby file, so I should. Okay, so it's not collaborating that much with my formatting. Let's make it fast by formatting manually. Okay, so now we are good to go and continue. So I have this hyper table. That's the first one. That's how we can reuse it. And the second option here is model helpers. So I should be just showing this. Okay, and you can also use hyper table helpers to get access to some basic scopes for your model. Examples after the include. So we can say here event.chunks, event.hypertable. And so on. So this is a few basics, and 𝗓𝗡 hooks is something that we don't have like a very good way to have it here as a hook yet, but we can probably be covering it in some specific episodes. But for now, let's say we can just say add this to your 𝗓𝗡 /𝗓𝗡 helper.rb file. So what we need to add here is tab new Ruby Rails app spec helper. So here we have this thing that we built in the previous session. Oops, I got the wrong file. It's the Rails helper, not this one. And what I did here was this config before suite that we basically go and check what application record, what models are using this instance, and then if they are using if they are including the hypertable helpers, it means it's a hypertable. So, and then we can just create a hypertable if necessary. So that's the idea. So for now, it's not like a very good production code to add to the gem, but as we now, let's say, have published these hypertable helpers, people are able to just reproduce it. So it should be like the easiest way to reproduce this start, and that's also very good for who needs it. And yeah, so this is going, and this is let's say now with this option. So let's commit and see how our small start is going. So let me exit from here, and let's go back here, git status, git add readme, git add examples, git commit -m, add examples folder, and document the basics. And if we push, I have this like push force with Liz, so it's PF, and now we can see a better documentation here. So we can see the migration options that we created, and we can also see here hypertable helpers, that how people should be using and what they can get after doing this. And here is a small example of what they can develop after let's say when people are going to check out the library, they can see this step by step. So I'm planning to also improve the all-in-one so we can have more examples, but this also, let's say this all-in-one example is quite cool because it can show people how they can use all the details. Like here, for example, we have compression, we still don't have compression. We also have like some groups and so on. So it's quite cool and useful. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments, leave a comment on our live stream or leave a comment on our YouTube video later. And yeah, the let's say the repo is already available, so you can check it out and try it yourself. And yeah, I hope it also stimulates everybody to be working towards with Ruby and also with Timescale and having fun with the hypertables. So thank you for watching and see you soon. And also next week we are going to just have another session, but it will not be on Ruby, it will be on C. And I'm going to invite some of the Timescale and Postgres developers to show how they develop extensions and how we can run a small workflow on this. So I'm very happy that we are going to dive into some different code, and probably we are going to also have more episodes covering this Timescale chip. So yeah, thank you for being here. See you next week.